If you were anything like me, you were terrified of the inspection process when you got a house under contract. I used to bust so many deals because I didn't know what I was doing until I learned these things that we're about to talk about. Hello, my friend. I wanted to talk to you today about the inspection process and the inspection repair negotiation process. This is very important because if you don't handle it properly, it will cost your client a perfect house and it will cost you thousands of dollars in commissions. Something I've learned over my long career is that there is no such thing as a bad house and no such thing as a bad client, simply inexperienced real estate agents. And I don't mean to make fun of new agents or to insult new or inexperienced agents. I'm simply making the point that most situations that cause deals to bust could be avoided if you set expectations properly on the front end. Most agents that let deals bust during the inspection period aren't experienced enough to know how to get in front of things or nip things in the bud, and they allow them to become a big issue, and it causes the buyer to back out of the contract. And 99% of the time, the agent's not saying the wrong thing during the inspection or during the negotiations. They simply didn't set expectations properly on the front end, and it causes roadblocks or speed bumps for you on the back end. So here's what I want to talk to you about today. There are three main factors that will determine the success of your repair negotiation. The first one is, how well can you set expectations? The second one is, how much can you influence what goes on the actual repair request form? And the third one is, how much of a problem solver can you be during this inspection negotiation process? Let's discuss each factor one at a time. The first factor is setting expectations. The number one thing you can do as a new agent or as an agent in general is to set expectations properly. Nothing will make your job harder or more difficult than not properly setting expectations. A good realtor is someone who communicates well with their clients. They communicate so well that the client always knows what's currently happening and what will happen in the future. When clients aren't properly communicated with, their mind is gonna wander, they're gonna stress, they're gonna freak out, and their mind will always take them to the most extreme example of what could happen. If a client doesn't know what's gonna happen, they're gonna be stressed out, they're always gonna be on edge, and they're gonna react more emotionally, which is gonna make it more unpredictable and more difficult to influence. You need to be setting expectations about the inspection long before the inspector ever sets foot in the house. The best way to set expectations with your client is to explain to them what's important and what's not. This will pre-program their mind and tell them what to be looking for on the inspection report. I always tell my clients the inspector's gonna come into this house, they're gonna turn it upside down, they're gonna be looking for everything that's not functioning as it was originally intended, and they're gonna put it on that inspection report. There could be 50, 60, 80, 100 line items on this inspection report, but really all we're looking for, all we really care about are the 5 main functions of the house. It's the foundation, it's the roof, the heating and air, the plumbing, and the electrical. This is really all we care about for a few reasons. Number one, these are the main functions of a house. Very reasonable to believe that any buyer buying this house is gonna ask for those things to be done, so will we. The second thing is, these are the big ticket items of a house. All of those things could be expensive to repair or replace. So if you're not careful, these could be big items for you to fix down the road if they're not properly functioning now. Everything else on the inspection report is going to be what we call deferred maintenance. Those are things that handymen can fix. It's things that you can fix on the weekend. Small ticket items that every single house is going to have. Every house is going to have a toilet that's maybe loose at the floor. They're going to have doors that stick, windows that don't open, light switches that don't control anything. All these little things around the entire house that don't really affect the functionality of the house, but they're all things that could or should be addressed. When I can properly set expectations, it allows me to create a frame through which my buyer can view this inspection report, and even if there's 80 or 100 line items on there, they're not gonna freak out because Brett told them,
we only care about these 5 things.
Don't set expectations properly. Your buyer's gonna look at that report, see 80 or 100 line items, and they're gonna freak out. They're thinking,
I'm spending hundreds of thousands of dollars and there's so much wrong with this house.
and you can never go backwards from when they get that initial reaction. No matter what you say or how you try to explain it, you can't give them a new first reaction to that inspection process. Sometimes new agents don't set expectations and then try to convince them afterwards, and it ends up just driving a wedge between them and their client because the client thinks the realtor is just trying to say anything they can to get a deal done. And if you keep pushing and push too hard, you can start to lose trust and goodwill with your client. That is why it's so vital to set expectations up front prior to the inspections, before any of that happens, because then you can create that frame for your buyer to view those inspections through, and you can pre-program their mind so that they know what they're looking for. The second point in determining the success of an inspection negotiation is going to be how well you can influence what actually goes on the inspection request form. And there's a few things to consider when you're filling out an inspection repair request form. And this is kind of how I break it down for my clients. There are three people that influence what goes on in an inspection repair request form. That is the inspector, you as the real estate agent, and then obviously the client. The inspector's job is to identify things that could be a safety or security issue. Maybe there's a window with broken glass. Maybe there's lead-based paint that's chipping on the exterior of the house. Maybe there's hollow core doors on the exterior of the house, or even ungrounded gas lines in the house, things that could cause safety or security issues in the future. The realtor's job is to find industry and market standards and guide the buyer on what's common in the industry and what's common in the current market today, and what they should and could ask for. What are other buyers and sellers asking for and agreeing to? And you can help influence what goes on that repair request by letting them know what other people are doing. And lastly, the client's job is to put whatever's going on in their head on this inspection repair request. Whatever their expectations of the inspection repair request might be. Maybe the last house they bought had a sewer line issue, so now they're freaking out about the sewer line. Or maybe their aunt bought a house and the aunt had electrical issues. Now in their head, they think, I gotta make sure the electrical is fine. Whatever expectation they have set up in their head, you wanna consider that and make sure we address it on the inspection repair request, or at least make sure we address it so they know why we're not asking for it. Then we wanna combine what all three people think is important, what the inspector thinks are safety and security issues, what you think are industry and market specific things that we should look for, and what the buyer's predetermined expectations are. We mush them all together, then we come up with a list that we want to put on the inspection repair request. A lot of times I see new or inexperienced agents put 20 or 30 line items on an inspection repair request, and I know it's because they did a poor job setting expectations up front, the buyer freaked out, now they want everything fixed. And that makes negotiations very, very difficult. Okay, so now we've properly set expectations. Now we know how to fill out our inspection repair request form. The last factor that's going to determine your success when negotiating is how good of a problem solver you are. I want you to first understand that as soon as a buyer gives a seller an inspection repair request form, everything is back on the table for negotiations. We can negotiate purchase price, we can negotiate closing costs, home warranty, closing date if we need to. Everything is back on the table. So when you're negotiating, you have to understand it's not black and white. It's not either or. It's not fix it or I walk. We can negotiate any term that's on the contract to make the buyer and seller feel more comfortable with moving forward. Since we know this is the case, then now we know the more resourceful we can be and the more creative we can be with helping the buyer and the seller get what they want, the better we can be at negotiating the inspection and repair requests. Unfortunately, the best way to get good at solving problems and negotiating inspection and repair requests is to do a bunch of transactions. But if you're new or inexperienced, you don't have a bunch of transactions to fall back on. So that's why I always tell new agents, partner with a mentor, partner with a coach, especially during this process of the transaction, because it's so dynamic. If you just say one wrong thing or just miss one expectation, it can blow up the whole deal. So when working with a coach or a mentor, they can draw on all their experience and all their problem solving and resourcefulness, and it can help you close your transaction. There are millions of examples of negotiating inspection repair requests that I could give you, but really the number one thing I want you to take away from it is that when you're negotiating inspection repairs, it's not black and white. It's not either or. It's not fix it or I walk. There are always other options, and the more you can explore those options and sell those options to your clients, the more likely you're going to be able to get that deal closed, and the less likely it is that your client's going to walk away because they're freaking out about the repairs. So just to recap, the three main factors that are going to determine a successful inspection negotiation is how well you set expectations with your client up front, how well you can influence what items go on the inspection and repair request, and how well you can problem solve to keep the buyer and the seller engaged in the contract. Once you can hone in these skills and get better at this process, the higher the likelihood that you stop busting deals due to inspections. In my first year in real estate, I must have busted 6 or 7 transactions because I couldn't get past the inspection process. Now, a decade later, when I get a house under contract, there's a 99.9% chance we're gonna get it closed because of how well I can set expectations. And it's not because I'm some genius, it's because I learned how to set expectations. I learned how to nip things in the bud before they blow up into a big problem. and I learned how to influence my clients into making the right decisions, getting out of their own way, and getting to the finish line in every single transaction. I hope you found this video helpful. If you're going through this and right now, or you're trying to negotiate transactions or negotiate inspections, please don't hesitate to reach out. I would love to help you. Go to our Facebook page, send us a message. I want to make sure you know everything you can to give you the best chance at actually getting your deals closed. I hope this was helpful, and I will see you guys in the next video.